I've been thinking quite a bit over the last few days about Starmer and that authoritarianism.
The instinctive
Exactly.
hatred of freedom. Remember, freedom's an English word. It's a powerfully English word. It's an English idea. Starmer, again, our personal experiences, Philip, are very important. I read about your terrible experience this morning. For me, obviously with no element of violence, was the whole element of my cancellation back in 2020. Who alone, when it was cranked up yet further by the intervention of some sort of Muslim detective in London to a potential charge under the Public Order Act, with mandatory imprisonment for God only knows how long, who alone of a public figure intervened to say this would have been appropriate to be tested at law? The Times mocked it. Even The Guardian said it was ridiculous. Who alone said that the charge might be worth investigating?
Who?
Keir Starmer.
Oh, God.
This is what we've really got to understand. This has been an extraordinary year. The tectonic plates really are shifting. And if you recall, there was that extraordinary moment earlier in the year when J.D. Vance tackled the security conference in Munich and denounced them so vigorously that the soppy-eyed German president burst into public tears under his reproof. But what Vance was saying, you in Europe have abandoned liberty. You have abandoned freedom. You have gone for the regulated state in what you can say, and what you do is to be controlled by a state-engineered view of propriety, or what I would bluntly say are state lies, And America's gone in a different direction. It's exactly like a revival of George Orwell's 1984. If you remember, in 1984, Britain is Airstrip 1. It's the frontier between the great, Orwell understood perfectly, the great continental power with its tradition of absolutism, and of course then the Anglo-Saxon world has been equally perverted. But we're the marginal. And the whole aim of the left is to take us fully into this regulated, this opinion-controlled, identity card-controlled world of Europe. And to separate as far as possible us from our traditional alliance, not only with America, but with the rest of the Anglophone world. The great problem with the position of people like Starmer, governed by the French idea of universals, they've totally lost sight of anything called the national interest.
Exactly.
The supine posture, and the way Starmer behaved with Macron was like an envoy to the Chinese Ming court, where you were required to perform, where you were required to kowtow, which involves striking your forehead on the floor in front of the emperor. And he behaved exactly like that.
He behaved exactly like that. And you've just used a couple of words there, absolutism and control. And I think Macron's obsession with Brexit in that speech.
We rebelled.
We rebelled, exactly. And this is why this will just not go away. It's the ultimate betrayal as far as they're concerned. We're out of control, and we must be
And
reigning.
it's why again that whole section of the Remainer obsessed elite in Britain decided they hated their own country.
They hated their own country and they loved France.
Remember, these are the kind of people who have their villas in Tuscany and their elegant chateaux just outside Bordeaux, and their petit chateau just on the other side of the Channel, and think French food is absolutely wonderful and provincial England is filthy and tiresome, and the kind of Matthew Parises who sneer at Clacton.
Well, the key thing about this as well, there were two issues here, aren't there? One was this incredible snobbery, this hatred of the white working class.
Or indeed the white middle class, the whole sneer at the suburb.
Yes, but there's also this kind of self-loathing as well, which Britain, our heritage, our culture, our history, all of that is essentially thrown into the dustbin for several reasons. I think a part of it is self-loathing.
Again, Orwell, remember, is the It's the first person, really. I mean, Orwell is one figure, but it does go back much further. It goes back to the 19th century. I don't know whether you are. I am a slight aficionado of Gilbert and Sullivan, but there is in Coco, the executioner's song in the Mikado, there is that wonderful thing: those who sing the praises of every century but this, and every country but their own. And it's the Oscar Wilde crew. It's the direct ancestors of Stephen Fry. I mean, all that lot. It's a particular style that sees that as being sophisticated and ours as really rather coarse. One of the things that's gone fundamentally wrong is that we have presented what could be acts of decent private charity. Now, if an individual thinks that a refugee deserves accommodation, needs to be taken into their home and whatever, fine, if they pay for it. But the state is not a charity. We are not bound by Christian ethics. You will remember Jesus had a very powerful view. He said, "My kingdom is not of this world." It was not his. Christianity has a view that if you actually bother to read the New Testament carefully, that this world will dissolve very quickly and we will be into paradise. Now, there's no provision whatever for a sustainable society. And remember, what does he say to the rich? It is easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. Sell all your goods and give to the poor. Now, do you wonder occasionally if Rachel Reeves has been reading that as a basis for Labour's fiscal policy? Because there are moments when it seems we have, but it's this complete confusion.
Well, it's a combination between that and the Communist Manifesto, isn't it, really?
Which, remember, is another form of mad religion.
We inherited all of that stuff. We've got identity politics, which is essentially a cult. We're forming our society around identity politics and, as you say, minority rights. And that can only go one way. That can only end in catastrophe. Now, I think catastrophe was about 5 or 6 years ago. We're beyond catastrophe now, and we're thinking about how to pick up the pieces.
But equally, what I think is important, and what we've only, I think, just begun, or maybe I'm being autobiographical and saying I've only just begun to think of what has actually happened, to begin to analyse clearly and dispassionately what's happened, which is therefore the first step to doing something about it. I think, again, going back to that conversation where we began with France, with the visit of Macron, with that infinite patronage. Blair tried, when we all laughed ourselves silly, when Blair talked about a new country, the world's oldest functioning political system. Okay, I know the Japanese Mikado goes back further, but of course, Japanese politics now and Japanese politics then, wildly different. We have an identifiably continuous politics from roughly Magna Carta. And then, but you know what? Blair actually achieved that. He superimposed on our own structures new systems of law, new systems of devolved power through the quangos, the rule of experts, a kind of platonic, again, very top-down French-style politics, and so on and so on. And because it was done gently, because it was never advertised, it was never explained, it was done piecemeal. It's that thing about slowly boiling a frog.
The style of it as well was really important. It was sharp suits. It was articulation. It wasn't Tony Benn.